Hey, everybody, we're back. And as Alan mentioned, yes, I spent 2.5 days with the Datadog Dash conference. They took over the North Hall of the Javits Center here in New York City. So there was like 3 floors, and maybe I couldn't count them all, but I want to say there were at least 3 to 4,000 of my closest DevOps friends walking around for 2 days. So conversations were awesome. But Datadog is also rapidly evolving into something more than an observability and monitoring company. Like every other company on the planet, they rolled out a bunch of agents, and they already had agents from last year. So now they're previewing more agents. But interestingly enough, they're also talking about tools to fix code, going back to our last conversation, which will look at something and say, here's our recommendation for fixing that. They may not automatically apply that yet, but they're also looking at MCP servers, which allows them to integrate their observability platforms with other agents that execute things. So you can think about the world this way. Maybe Datadog becomes the center of the observability motion, but now they can actually go fix things by talking to other AI agents that say, hey, we observe this, you should fix that. And maybe these agents will do that without any intervention, Fred. I don't know how you feel about that, but at least somebody programmed that other agent to go do something. When you put it all together, what's interesting to me is one, Datadog is becoming more than what it used to be. But now I start thinking about all these AI agents and these integrations. And the argument against a merger and an acquisition was it was going to be too hard to integrate something. Well, now I can see a world where everything can be integrated through an AI agent. So maybe we'll see this massive wave of mergers and acquisitions, and companies that were in one segment will be in multiple segments, and maybe there'll be a lot of consolidation going on. Alan, I know you follow Datadog, but what's your take?
So look, another company releases AI agents. Shocking. But that being said, specific to Datadog, let's call a spade a spade. If these guys didn't jump on the AI bandwagon and do something drastic, they were toast. Because, just pure observability, and Datadog is, they're one of the pioneers of this whole observability market that grew out of the application performance monitoring market management, APM market. AI was a lethal threat to their existence because using AI, you could probably conjure up a lot of what they were charging people a lot of money for relatively easy. Or easier. And so they needed to pick up that AI baton and move the mark up. And they have. And it sounds from what you're saying, Mike, like they have. I guess ultimately the market will tell us. But, it's going to be an interesting, when we look at disruption by AI in certain verticals of technology, security we spoke about, observability is really one that's ripe for huge disruption. And it's not just Datadog, and I'm naming names, PagerDuty, Datadog. Look at all the big observability companies that went public in that last round of IPOs, right, before the market kind of went the other way. A lot of those observability companies, if they don't embrace and extend with AI, are going to have a hard time surviving. And you will see M&A, you will see, disruption.
So, Fred, I want to come back to what we were talking about last segment and marry it up to this segment, because sometimes I feel like we are all collectively talking out of both sides of our mouth. So on the one hand, the IT ops people and the security people will say, I'm sick of people who show me tools but don't give me a way to fix it. And then I'm dependent upon somebody else to go fix that thing. And then on the other end of it, we're also saying, oh my God, don't touch anything because you might break it. And therefore, we're going to have a problem. But we don't have the time to go actually fix the thing that you just told us needs to go fixing. So how do we kind of get to something that feels like, operationally middle?
It's a good question. I think, and this also touches a little bit on what Ira was talking about. Really, the part of the reason why the OWASP standards haven't changed in, forever and a day is because hygiene is still a problem. So when we talk about things that are observability problems for IT or security, right, those consequences are kind of, we'll say their security consequences or something else. But, inherently, those are things that we manage from an IT perspective, and sometimes we don't do a great job at them. Still, we don't do a great job at those things. So an example where, Datadog's addition of a bunch of tools, and I do mean a bunch, is that some of those things can put together the consequences in a way that allows either side to make good decisions. And I think that's very interesting. Datadog's long been viewed as purely an observability platform. In fact, they intentionally didn't build a SIEM when some others might have suggested, hey, that's probably a good thing to do. The data is very common, and there's an awful lot of this type of information. People are shoving application data in here, right, to go evaluate that. And the question becomes, if that's an IT tool, is it also a security tool? Of course it is. So there's value in tying those things together. And I like the idea a lot. And we've talked about this a bunch on here, is that there's great ways to tie these pieces together through things like agents. My question is, at what point is this sort of an Icarus approach, right? We're talking about app performance LLMs. We're talking about a SIEM LLM that does triage and stuff for cyber. We're talking about, a way to, monitor the rest of the agent's performance, AKA watching the watcher, right? We're talking about workload protection and a whole host of other things here. And, the thing that I wonder about, and there's also code security in here. So the thing that I wonder about is that's an awful lot of things tied together in one place. I'm not sure how connective tissue there is going to respond. I mean, how the market's going to respond to that level of connective tissue. But I'm with Shimmy here that if you don't do something right, you're going to be nothing. And in this case, when you compare to like a Dynatrace or an App Dynamics, they're all doing very similar things. This is a big shot by Datadog to take on this many components. It's like 5 different industries that they just.
And I'll add to that, they also launched an internal developer portal, an IDP, and gave a salute to platform engineering and said, part of the reason we want to have all this connected tissue is that we are going to see the rise of platform engineering, and AI will help drive that. And I know those are at least 2 topics that are close to Alan's heart, but platform engineering is also part of this equation.
Well, this is something I mean, this is kind of something I think really should have been done decades ago because, I've always said like cybersecurity should be embedded in just about every unique function theoretically. And that means, for example, administrators should be doing a lot of cybersecurity responsibilities, help desk analysts, same thing. Operating system developers should have cybersecurity teams embedded within their development organization. Same thing with all, and like Datadog, vendors like them should be going ahead and implementing cybersecurity along with everything they've been doing. And it's refreshing to actually see a vendor do this. I mean, I think Microsoft started trying to do a lot of this by writing more secure code and more secure development standards. But at least this way, a vendor is taking responsibility for saying, you know what, security is an integral part in everything that we're doing and we're enabling on your behalf. So I'll just say it's refreshing and leave it there.
Good for them. Now, kudos to Datadog. Guys, I got to pull the plug here and wrap up. People got to get on with their weekends. Fred, Ira, having both of you on this show is, for this, old security dude, it does my heart good. Thank you both for coming on. John and Mike, as always, is great sharing with you. Great sharing with you. I hope you found our conversations interesting today. As usual, we have a full Techstrong TV lineup immediately following Techstrong Gang today. A couple hours worth of more tech news in case you need it. If you don't, have a great weekend. We'll be back Monday with more Techstrong Gang and more tech interviews and news and happenings. Until then, though, this is Alan Schimmel for the Techstrong Gang. Have a great day, everyone. We're out.